Okay, so I'm recording a second video of this game. It was one of the games we had played the other day, but I want to see if I can make this shorter, because right now I'm still running it anywhere between 17 and 20 minutes, which is fine, except I would just want the video to be shorter. So I'm going to see if I'm able to make this shorter. If not, I'll just keep this video and just roll with it. Okay, so looking at the game as a whole, this was a quick game. There were some good moves made on both sides and some bad moves made on both sides. So I'm just going to walk you through the analysis that I've seen, and I will, of course, whatever video I make, I hope you get something from it. Alright, so let's begin. So I played the pawn d4, and typically with d4, initially it's a few different openings that start with d4, but the most common one, especially for beginners, is Queen's Gambit. Queen's Gambit is when I put my pawn up, you pull your pawn there. I'm going to bring my c-pawn up, hoping that if you accept it, your pawn takes this pawn. I bring my e-pawn here. I have control of the center of the board. So there are different ways to decline it. One way is the simple Queen's Gambit decline. You bring your pawn there. I bring this pawn here. Instead of taking it, you bring this pawn up one, protecting this pawn. So, and then it's like, okay, I don't just want to use this pawn and take that pawn, because then I have double pawns. I don't want double pawns, because double pawns can be hard to defend. So, there's that. So, you played f6. It's hard to say if f6 is a good move or bad move, just because in the beginning there are so many different openings you can play, and I believe if you were to go to the game analysis of this, f6 is a book move, because there are over 100 different openings in chess, and that is one of them. So then I played e4, because again, I want control of the center, or at least that's what I'm aiming for in initial. Control of the center, opening up rows for my bishops, and then slowly but surely want to move my knight out here, and then if I can castle on my king side, that's when I try to move this knight out here and castle and get my queen out, maybe there, and then castle on my queen side. So you played e5, which is a book move. I have to look and see what opening this is, but this is a official chess opening. So playing f6 and then going e5, that is a chess opening. So if this opening works for you, or I would say, if you can, just maybe look at a few different openings and then kind of practice them and see which one you like the best, which one kind of gives you the advantage that you're looking for in the beginning of the game. Of course, you're still learning, so there's still a lot to learn, so we might not cover openings for a little bit, but we're still going to work on the big concepts, and once you get the bigger concepts, then we can start to go towards the opening, because the openings will make more sense. So you played that. I played knight to f3, because I want to add more protection here, but also put some pressure on the center and this pawn right here. So you protected that pawn with your bishop, and also giving yourself a chance to open up that king side some. I took with my pawn. Now here, actually, let's go back. Yeah, instead of taking, instead of using this pawn to take this pawn, you moved your bishop over one. Now I'm assuming maybe that was to add some pressure to this square, because I remember mentioning that the f2 and f7 squares are weaknesses for each side of the board. Simply because if a piece were to get here, well, I'm not even going to say there, if a piece were to get close enough where it can attack this square, and the only way to protect that square will be for the king to attack it, the king loses power or loses the ability to castle. And, of course, you don't have to castle. You can always play through a castle. However, a castle is a good tactic to have in your arsenal, because instead of making extra moves to get your rook out and get your king protection, you can do that in one move. So, alright, so I brought my bishop out, because, again, I want to castle. I want to castle right there. And I don't need to worry about this pawn so much, because if you do take, my knight comes here and attacks that. So I decided to bring my bishop out. You brought your knight out again to open up your king side. I take your pawn because one, I don't want to have double pawns like I had. So if you see right there, double pawns. I don't want to have double pawns. So at least not this close. So with me getting this pawn out the way by essentially sacrificing it, but also taking some more of your material, I've gotten rid of at least double pawns in one row and temporarily in another row. So you take back, which is good. Now I don't have double pawns anymore. And your knight is also not in danger. My bishop, however, is controlling that row or that diagonal right there, so it's making castling impossible right here. Of course, you don't want to castle right here because this whole area right here is too open and it's not going to protect your king like you want it to. So, and to further expose that weakness, I'm bringing my bishop to that side of the board. And also, the bishop doesn't have to worry about any pawns getting in its way. So the bishop is free to go to this square if it wants to and attack that bishop or threaten that rook. So it doesn't mean it's going to get it. Depends on what the player plays, of course. But it can at least threaten that rook. And also, while it's threatening that rook, it's also threatening this pawn. So if you do move your rook here, I can just back up, take that pawn. Now your knight is pinned to your queen right there. So if you move this knight, say here or here, my bishop can swoop in and take your queen. So that's kind of the importance of getting there. So you move your knight out. I think I see your plan, which I didn't see the last recording, was that your knight was, you probably got your knight out to attack this bishop. However, my pawn is here and it can take your knight. So while you're taking, essentially you're trying to attack a piece that's worth the same value as your knight, my pawn can take a piece that's worth more than it. So, of course, I'm going to take that trade unless there's a reason for me not to, which in this case it wasn't. So I take, you put your queen there. It's like, okay, my king is temporarily exposed, so I bring my bishop back to protect it. Now, after that, you bring your another knight out because your plan, I'm assuming right now, is to open up this queen side so you can castle queen side, which I think is a good idea. I castled. You brought that pawn up. Probably get that bishop out of there because the bishop is the last piece that needs to get out, and then you're also bringing a pawn here to, you know, defend that, defend the, you know, the center of the board. The issue, however, is that this pawn has no protection, so it's easy for my queen to kind of swoop up and take that. So I see your bishop here also has access to my pawn. So had I could have better protected this pawn right there had I decided to take that initially, but I decided to go with something different. I decided to move my rook over one because I want to get to a point where I could expose the fact that your queen is in front of your king. All I need to do is get this bishop out anywhere, you know, here, or even there. Anywhere, just get the bishop from in front of the rook. This rook is backed up by this queen, and then my rook is also attacking your queen where it's pinned in front of your king. So you can't just move your queen any way you want to because you're exposing your king. So you decide to take that pawn. I attack your bishop by exposing your queen to attack. So we got these two things going on right here. Oh, whoops. Let's do that one more time. So here goes here, attacking this. My rook is attacking your queen. So you have two pieces attacked at one time. So with this, you have to choose, okay, which one do you want more? So in this case, or you don't have to choose, that was an option. So the move you made, putting your bishop in front of your queen, was the right move there. That way you don't have to lose either one of them. I decided, okay, well, let me attack this rook now. Now, granted, for me, that was kind of a bad move because, again, Your queen is here. Your queen could easily come over here and take that. So, but you decided to castle queenside, which is like, okay, I get that. You want to get your king out of danger right now. And this open area right here is potentially a weakness. It's not necessarily a weakness, but it can be a weakness later. So you're trying to get this king over here as far in this corner as possible, where it has all this to protect it, is the next big idea you want to do. Because right now, where my bishop is, I can go here and expose your bishop, because now this bishop is pinned in front of your king. So I don't believe. No, so my next move, I decided to take your rook. Why? Because your rook was there. You decided to castle, which actually I think the better move would have been moving either this rook here or using this queen to take that. Of course, had you moved your queen, I would have used my rook to take your bishop, and I guess that's essentially a free bishop. And then you would have had to figure out a way to protect that, which your bishop is right here. You can always bring that there. And your queen would be right here. So if I were to say, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and take your bishop too, I do a second circle for taking the bishop too, your queen can come in and take my rook. So you left your rook there. So I took it because I'm trading a lesser piece for a greater piece. You took back, which is like, okay, that's what I would do unless there was a better move to do. I decided to move my bishop in front of your bishop because, again, your bishop is actually teaching. Your bishop is a weakness now. By moving my bishop here, your bishop becomes a weakness because now your bishop is pinned to your king. So I saw that and I want to take advantage of that. You decide to move your queen behind your bishop, trying to, I guess, protect it in a different way, which is, in this case, it's like in this case, your bishop couldn't just take my bishop because then my rook comes in and takes your queen. Now, of course, your bishop can take back. However, you lost your queen. So you take. Well, let's see, who would have been a piece advantage right there? You would have got my bishop for free. I would have taken your queen because it's a queen, and your bishop would have taken my rook. So you would have still had both your bishops, and the fact that the board is kind of wide open, that could have been a strength later in the game. Once you get better and once you learn to play with bishop pair, having both bishops is almost as powerful as having a queen on the board, just because both bishops will cover a lot more ground than one bishop can. So I see why you did that. I took that because essentially that's a free piece right now, because now my bishop is pinning your queen to your king. So you take. I take back because it's queen, and it's essentially a free queen. So you put your knight there to threaten my rook. Understood. I take your pawn because your pawn is free, and I essentially want to lock down this row with my rook. So, and then let's see, what else could you do? You could maybe move this bishop here on your next move, and then that's threatening my rook. Where my rook couldn't go there, so it would have to reside here or go backwards, because this whole area is cut off because of all these pawns right there. And I can't even just go there because your knight right here could take. So there's that. So you move your rook to the open file. Like I said, that's where the rook is strongest, on the open files, and can cause a lot of damage. My queen decides to take that pawn because it's there, and eventually I want to get my queen here, or maybe do some damage here depending on where your king goes, and I also want to threaten that bishop. And so I'm trying to get both of these on one side of the board so I can try to cause some damage and maybe potentially get a checkmate here. So you move your bishop up, which is you moved it out of harm's way. and that was a better idea because now you're giving your what is it? Your rook still has this file to go to, and now the bishop can potentially work this file and help. Now, granted, I can move this up one, and it has protection by this pawn and this knight, but again, that didn't fit with what I was trying to do, so that's why I didn't do this. Now, of course, your rook being right there, once it comes here, my knight is here. So if there was a way you can get this knight, say here or here, or just away from this area, then this, and I'll write it again, this can be a checkmate if this is not there. So I moved my queen there because my queen wanted to put your king in check on a diagonal, which it did. So it did that, and then now my queen moved there because my queen wants to have some control of this file right there. So now, granted, right here, my queen is threatening your rook. Your rook has to go there, or has to move probably about there or there. It's not going to mess around with these squares. Yeah, there, or there, where it can probably start to attack my pawns on this side, because right now I can't do too much. Can't do too much on this side. This king is protecting right here, and then you don't want to go there yet. And emphasis on yet, because this knight is still here. So, yeah, so you decided to go all the way there, which would have been checkmate, again, had this knight not been there. The fact that this knight was there means this knight can just jump here and take this piece. So, and the thing is, this is your last major piece. Now you're left with two minor pieces, but the minor pieces don't cover the ground a major piece like a rook or a queen does. So that was a bad move there. See, I took back with my knight because, again, I'm getting rid of a major piece. Now here, with you bringing your rook, let's go back. With you taking this rook out of here and bringing it here, this was left unprotected, which means all I need to do is take my queen and take that, and that's checkmate. So now, granted, I actually did not have to take your rook, and I should have saw that earlier. I wasn't paying attention. I take that back. I did have to take your rook. I had to take your rook because I was in check. Your rook was checking my king, so I did have to take your rook. That's why I took it. Otherwise, I would have just taken my queen and taken your knight. So, but I took your rook. You took him back. Let's see. Now, with taking back, I'm looking at what you could do here, because this knight is in danger, right? Naturally, your first instinct is to take back, right? An eye for an eye here. Sometimes that's what it is with chess. However, this knight is in danger, so I think moving the knight here would be good. Just because this knight is now here protecting this square right there. So if I were to take my queen and go there with your knight here, your knight can just take back. So I wouldn't do that. My rook could attack your knight. However, you have pawn protection right here to go over that. So you have two pawns, but your king would also have this space to get out of. And then I would have to try to work these minor pieces in this major piece on this side of the board to try to attack you. So it was more so getting that knight out of there would be a way for you to live another day. So, but with that, so I'll say in this instance, what I would have done, put my knight there. So it's protected by this pawn in case you do decide to take it there. I'm not going to take my queen because I want to keep my queen. My queen could go there if it wants to. and then your knight would probably just jump back because it would have to, and then I would just take your knight, and then that's checkmate. Yeah, so I guess there's not really a perfect solution for that. So I guess that knight move would be just an extra move to survive. So, yeah, so once you took back, I put you in checkmate by doing that. And the reason that's checkmate, of course, that square, you can't go there, you can't go back because you're still in check. And you have this little pawn fortress in front of you, which at one point was a strength, but for back rank checks like this one right here, it becomes a weakness. So it's not necessarily that's a weakness, it's more so, well, let's go back. So in this case right here, there wasn't much you can do. Well, actually, let's see here. There wasn't too much you can do. You can move this knight and put it there, but I have two pieces there. So if I put my knight here, my rook can take that. If you were like, okay, I want to take back and go there, my queen puts you in check. Your king still has to go to the side, and my queen just swoops down right there. Checkmate. If I were to put, let's see, that would be about the only thing you could do. So the only other thing you can do is to do the opposite. Say I want to put my rook here, which adds some pressure to here. But of course, you can use this rook, take here, my knight would come in, or your knight would come in, take that. My queen would go here, do the same thing, putting you in check. Your king has to go this way, because it can't go along that white diagonal. It could go here now, which would change the game somewhat. Now let me redraw this. So let's say both your knight and rook are gone, right? Your king is here now. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, that's your bishop, not mine. I was gonna say if that was my bishop with my queen here. Gosh, I'm horrible. I can just do that, and that's a check where your king will have to go that way. Yeah, that's all bad. Yeah, so that's that. So that's checkmate by the back row. So the back row checkmate or back rank checkmate is when your king is behind a pawn fortress, and the only way it can go is towards the cornered board, but there's no pieces back here that could, protect against a piece like a queen or a rook, putting your king in check and mate. The difference is, if you look at this scenario, if this knight wasn't here, this would be a back rank checkmate for me. So, but of course my knight was there. My knight was able to swoop in and take that rook. So, but overall, I think that was a good game. Once again, with every game we're playing, I can tell you're getting better. I can tell you're understanding more and doing more. So definitely keep developing your pieces. You watch out for the back rank, especially when a power piece like a rook or a queen gets close to your king. That's when you want to start to move, like maybe that pawn up to give your king an out. Because once my king or queen got here, that's when it was good to move a pawn up, either one or two squares. That way your king could have an out right there. Now, of course, this rook is still blocking this, but maybe moving this pawn up on the next move or so. After you, say, move this pawn over here on a7 up 2, then your king has this white square right here. Okay, let's do this. You move this up 2, move this up 1, on separate moves, of course. Your king can now go here, maybe move up 1 where it's not being attacked by that rook, and probably go here eventually. Now, of course, my queen would probably rotate on this side because it wants to try to control that rank and make sure you stay back here as much as possible. So eventually my rook will probably roam down here, maybe come to this corner or right there, attacking your king. It all depends on the setup, of course. But again, once my queen got here, this is when you want to start to move this pawn up, or even that pawn. Preferably this one right here. Move that up 1 or 2, and then move this up 1. You know, depending on what's here. You know, if you have like a rook or a queen here, of course you want to move that up, move this piece up 1, so you have some, so you can get to this corner right there. So, but again, you want to give your king a way out. So, but overall that was good, and yeah, I'll review another game, and we'll see what other lessons we can pull from that. Good job.